welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 8 subjects I think we should be teaching in homeschool and in public school that maybe we aren't or we aren't doing well. And so if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. All right, so I recently saw Angela Braniff do something similar to this. Some of my ideas are from her video, and then I thought of some things separate from that as well, about some subjects that she thinks we just don't cover well enough, and I totally agree with her. There are subjects either in public school or maybe even at homeschool that we just don't talk about enough that are kind of important just for life. You know, we go over math, we go over language arts and all these things like that, like grammar and all the history things you need to know, but some very basic kind of skills I think sometimes we miss in teaching all those things. And those things are so important because those are more things that you'll use on a daily basis than anything else. So I'm gonna go through this list. I think that I'm getting a cold. I have some kids that are sick. My throat is a little raspy, so hopefully it will survive because it's feeling a little tingly and sore, but we're gonna go through these 8 subjects. And write down in the comments what you think. If there's subjects that you think we should be teaching or things that you think we shouldn't or whatever things, keep it nice, obviously, but things that we should be discussing that maybe would be more helpful for our kids than other topics that we focus more of our time on. So maybe that you'll have more ideas after you hear some of my suggestions, and then you can put those down in the comments and we can discuss and glean information from everybody. All right, the first one is personal finance. And I think this is something that really we don't focus on enough. So I went to public school. I wasn't homeschooled or anything. Even when I was in junior high or high school, there was, I think, a finance elective, something. There was something like that, but I don't know how much finance it actually covered. And it wasn't, again, a required class, and not many kids took it. And then when I was in college, since my degree, well, I was a family and consumer science education teacher, which is like all the cooking, sewing, interior design, all those types of things. And then I switched to human development my last year, but one of the classes that I had to take for those majors was family finance. And I really liked that class. It was very educational. It opened my mind and my eyes to things that I just didn't know or didn't understand very much about. And I think that's important, but starting younger, I think it's important to know how to organize finances, to know how to manage them. That's one of the reasons that we have allowance. My kids don't necessarily earn allowance because they do chores and jobs around the house because they're part of our family. But a big part of their allowance is so they can learn to manage money. They can know how much they have. They can, it's on a card, and so they can only spend that much. They need to keep track of it. They need to really think about what they're spending money on and all that kind of stuff. But also learning about like mortgages and debt and credit cards and the benefits of some of those things and the not benefits of the other ones, right? Like credit card debt, like don't do that. Different things like that would be, I think, very important and helpful for kids to be learning in their teenage years a little bit more seriously than they are, just so that they understand that money actually has value. Because I think sometimes they don't understand that. They don't know that. They just think they can just throw it at everything. Like the card is just endless. They can just do whatever they want with very little consequence. So teaching kids younger about personal finance, I think, would be a very important thing for us to be doing. The second thing I wanted to mention is cooking and healthy eating, especially cooking and baking at home. I think a lot of that art is being lost, especially in the United States, of making food at home, knowing how to make food at home, making good food at home and healthy food. And it's, we have such busy schedules, we overschedule ourselves, we have fast food, right? There's lots of ways that it makes it easier for us to not make food at home. But I think it's so important in so many ways. First of all, it's teaching you how to make things. Like teaching your kids how to cook food would be a vital skill because it's cheaper. Okay, another part of that, like personal finance stuff, is they get older, buying the separate pieces for a meal and putting that together is actually way, way cheaper than going to the fast food restaurant at McDonald's, fast food restaurant. I don't go to fast food very often, but going through the drive-thru at McDonald's and getting a hamburger there would be way more expensive than just making it at home, right? Learning those types of skills, but learning too that Homemade food usually tastes better. I know there's a trial and error period, and there's trial and error for certain recipes too, where it might not taste better. It might take some work and stuff like that, but in the long run, it is so much better, and it's teaching really good life skills and also intergenerational skills. If you have your kids with you in the kitchen, if you have your kids with you and your mom or grandma, you know, or if they're just in the kitchen with grandma or anything like that, or grandpa, I'm not, you know, men can cook too, or dad, any of these people, they're learning to work together with adults. They can share stories, they have really good memories. They can, you know, hear about this recipe comes from like my great what, you know, or grandma or something like that. They brought it across on the plains or on the ocean or something. You know, they can hear all these cool stories about their family history. They can just gain a better relationship with their family members or even with friends if you like to do cooking with neighbors or stuff like that. So I think this art of like being in the kitchen together, cooking from scratch together has been lost. And, you know, healthy eating also, it's just, even if you're making a little bit more comfort food at home, it's still way healthier than eating it out or buying that stuff already pre-made at the store. But you can also focus on eating healthy foods, and some kids will be more invested, not all kids, okay, but some of them will be more invested in eating better food if they get to actually participate in the making of the food. So, you know, this could go along with gardening if you want to do that as well. Like, they get to see the whole process, and they're more invested in taking care of their bodies when they see that process. So I think just making homemade meals, focusing on healthy eating, talking to our kids about that, like correct portion amounts, what you should be eating for your age, all that kind of stuff. A lot of kids just don't know at all. And it's not something that was ever taught to me in high school. Even playing sports, like that is not something I learned playing sports. It was just basically eat whatever you want. And then you're just exercising a lot. So why does it matter what you eat? Which is not good for your body. So just focusing on all those things I think would be extremely beneficial for our kids. The third thing is hygiene and kind of like puberty type stuff. I know in school in 5th and 6th grade you have maturation classes, but it's like super quick and super awkward and it was just weird. Weird stuff going over all those type of things. But I think knowing a little bit more about like our bodies, understanding how they function and talking about them. I know that sometimes we think it's awkward to talk to younger kids about those things, but they are focusing it mostly like from a scientific perspective. They don't understand any of the emotion involved yet. And it's very good for them actually to learn it when they're younger and to understand how everything functions and how everything works. And that's not something that I was ever super duper taught. You know, I had maturation classes and that was really about it, you know, like and got married and it's like, figure it out, you know, like that was about it. There was no sex talk. There was nothing, like nothing. And so now, you know, my kids were very open about discussing different things when we talk about maturation, talked about puberty and everything in homeschool. I try to be open in answering their questions. And sometimes they're curious, sometimes they just can't understand it yet. And sometimes they're like, that's gross, you know, and that's fine. Like they can think it's gross. But I also think just proper hygiene in general needs to be focused on a little bit more, like putting on deodorant, making sure you wash your hair well, like for washing your face, you know, what's good to help your face for boys and girls, you know, with skincare and all that kind of stuff. And then makeup. You know, everyone's gonna have a different age when they let their girls start to wear makeup, and then what do you let them wear? And teaching them maybe about better products to put on their faces and to not go crazy. I don't know, you know, just all the different guidelines that you might have as a parent. And this might be helpful. These are things maybe you were taught them, but I wasn't specifically taught them by anybody, or even hair care. It's something that I've had to learn just as an adult and through trial and error. And your kids might still have to do that and find stuff that works best or that they like best, but at least they'll have hopefully a better foundation for it if we teach them a little bit more about it. So that is my third point. The fourth point I have to make is gonna seem a little bit funny, but it's chores. A subject we are not teaching our kids very well is chores. I think some people either shy away from this or they're just so busy that having their kids do things just doesn't fit into their schedule. And so they might shy away from it because they're afraid to make their kids work. They're like, kids need to be kids, which is true, but kids also learn how to be adults when they're kids. Okay, so if you don't teach them proper skills and stuff when they're kids, then they will not know how to do those things when they are adults. That's just fact. Okay, they're learning how to adult when they're a child. And so if you are just letting them do whatever and never giving them responsibility, that is how they will be as an adult. And so they need to have some guidelines. They need to understand that we work together, that we're like part of a team, that we take care of our stuff. We take pride in what we own and things like that. That's another thing with money management, with personal finance. It's that we take pride in what we've been given, what we've worked hard to get, instead of just throwing it out, leaving it out in the rain or leaving it in the middle of the floor and let everyone step on it and things like that, right? We take care of our stuff. So I think all these things are really important, a thing that's taught with chores. And so, especially with homeschool, you could have, I know some people have like hobby farms or just live on a farm or a ranch and they homeschool. And so a big part of the kids' homeschool isn't book work. It's doing all those chores that are part of the farm life. And so I think that's really cool. I would never be able to, I don't like animals enough to do that, like especially those kind of animals. But I love the idea of just kind of the serenity of farm life and stuff like that, or ranch life. And so having these chores for the kids to do, I think, is just something that we need to be teaching them, whether they're homeschooled or whether they're in public school. They need to have some responsibilities at home that they're held accountable for. The fourth point is productivity. And I think this is a tricky thing to teach, and it has a lot of aspects to it that we could talk about. One of them is just, how do our kids learn best? How are they most productive? And this is going to look different for everyone, just because everyone learns a little different, they function a little better. I am more productive when I have like an outline of my day with some bullet points of things I need to accomplish. Other people are not, maybe they just know, like they just know. They just kind of fill it out and go through the day, and that's how they're productive. Some people might have like morning time is their most productive time. That's when they function the best. Some it's a little bit better in the evening time. Okay, figuring those things out, but teaching our kids also that even if there's a time of day or a way that we aren't necessarily the most productive, sometime in our life we will probably have to be productive in that time. So doing things and being productive even when we don't want to be is very important, which goes along with schoolwork. Like maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they don't function as well in the morning, so you let them do certain things in the afternoon or whatever when they're functioning better. But then also have them still do stuff in the morning that they don't want to do, because that is how life is going to be. They're going to have to learn to be productive in times when they don't want to be productive. Okay, so understanding how our kids function and teaching them that, because maybe it's more obvious to us when they function better, or even in certain ways, like do they do better, more hands-on type of stuff? Are they more like they just read it and they just understand? Do they need to see someone do it and then they can do it? Like very visual, which is how I am. Like seeing stuff is just much easier than listening to someone explain something to me. And then I can be very productive. When I can see stuff that way, I just understand what to do, and it's a lot easier. And so this could take some work between you and your kids. Like, I see this, and this is what seems to work best for you. How do you feel about this? Do you want to try out this new idea or whatever? And just working through that with them. Again, these aren't like, when you think of a class, it's not sit down, here's all the lesson plans. Some of these might have more strict lesson plans. It's more just as you go throughout your day, make sure you're incorporating these things, because these are important and they're not necessarily things that are taught anywhere else. In public school, it's not like they sat me down and they're like, oh, you learn this way, so we're gonna let you learn this way. And here's your options, and you can do it this way. And if you just wanna do school in the morning, that's totally fine. Or whatever. And that's not how it works. And that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. But helping our kids understand maybe why they get frustrated, when they're trying to do schoolwork at certain times of day, and maybe when they'd be more productive, could be very helpful for them. My sixth subject to teach would be like a public speaking / debate class. Like, I didn't take debate, my husband did. And so it doesn't have to be something super intense. Okay, I know when you think of debate, it's intense, and you can do that if your kids are interested in doing that. but just making them comfortable talking in front of people. Little groups of people, maybe bigger groups of people. And this could look different. I wrote down some notes, so I'm looking at my notes because, I just can't think straight anyway. But learning to speak to other people could be part of this. Just having them start conversations. What in the heck was I even trying to say there? I don't know. Conversations with people maybe they don't know as well, or even like my husband's very good at this. He is very much an extrovert and I am not, and he's very good at talking to people and conversing with them. And so he has our girls at church on Sunday. He started having them go talk to some of the elderly women in our ward, which is our church congregation. And so they would go and just talk to them. And now they do it by themselves. Every week they go up and they are like, how was your week and how are you doing? And they know how to talk to people that aren't just their same age. They can talk to a variety of adults and engage in conversations with them. But it's also something you need to help them do. Some kids are more natural at it than others, but provide those opportunities for them. Or even if they throw the frisbee over the fence or the ball, make them go and get it. They have to knock on the door, they have to ask an adult, and that might be super uncomfortable for some kids. Maybe they need you to help walk them over the first time or something, and maybe you don't. Some kids are going to be different about this. But give them opportunities to interact with other people. And then like in our church, they will speak in church or they speak in primary, which is the kids group. And so they'll be given like a topic or something, and then they talk in front of the kids, or they could even talk as they get older, like more teenage years, in front of the whole congregation. And this is another really good opportunity. It's not long, like it's 5 minutes or less. And for the younger kids, it's just like a minute maybe. But it gives them the opportunity to be up in front of people. It's gonna be uncomfortable for a lot of people and a lot of kids, and it's gonna make you nervous, but being in these uncomfortable situations is so very helpful. And then like co-op groups. I haven't done any of these types of things, but I hear of other groups that do it with either you could have some sort of book club. So this is on a smaller scale discussing things, but you're still having to bring thoughts together and talk about them as a group. Or like if you have a play that you do together, if you have a big enough group for that, or if you have like a science group or a literature unit where you pick people or time periods or whatever it is, and you get all prepared for it. And then you get up in front of this group of homeschoolers and you present it. So there's all sorts of ways you can incorporate this that helps kids become a little bit more familiar and also just really good at conveying their thoughts. And they can practice it and everything beforehand. So by the time they get up and give everything, it's hopefully pretty polished, but it's still gonna be scary. Some kids it's gonna be absolutely terrifying, and other kids are gonna be like natural at it. So I have a variety of those kids. I have one in probably all the categories. And so anyways, I just think it would be something that would be really helpful for our kids, because obviously talking and communicating with people is a life skill. It's such an important life skill. So my 7th subject I think we should be teaching better, that maybe we're not, is politics. And I know some people are gonna be like, what? And I am not the first one to volunteer and be like, I'll teach about politics, because I just don't really have a great understanding of politics in general and just don't really like it. And so the reason I put it in here, to be honest, is because I just first finished reading the book, I Think You're Wrong, but I'm listening. That's what it's called. I'm like, I only wrote down the first part of the title on my notes. So Teaching a Good Perspective, that book, if you need an idea of how to teach politics, read that book. I Think You're Wrong, but I'm listening. I talked about it in my recent book review, I'm pretty sure. Yes, about like maybe a month ago or something. It talks about a Democrat and a Republican and how they work together, and they don't always agree, but they can still be kind and civil with one another, and they're still really good friends. And I think in our world today, that is something very important to teach about politics, because it's such a dividing factor, and so many people don't know why they believe what they believe. Okay, it's more just traditions or family have always believed this, and they don't really understand why. The why behind it is hidden, but their kids see that. They see like the angst and the hate, and that's how they approach politics too. So I think there's a better way to be teaching it. I don't have it perfected. I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is the way you should do it. But having a good perspective and understanding, like teaching it civilly and humanely, like we're all, part of humanity. Like stop being mean to one another. Let's work together. Let's discuss problems. And that there's more than two sides of an issue. It's not just this or that, it's this and that. And I think that would be really, really important in teaching our kids about politics, about teaching ourselves about politics, and that we could just be more loving and kind to one another. All right, my last subject I think we should teach is time management. This is kind of like a soapbox topic for me and my husband. We're both very efficient thinkers in so many ways. And so when we approach a situation, we're always like, okay, if we need more time, like if we need information to fill more time, what are we going to talk about? If we need to shorten, if someone else has taken our time, what are we going to talk about? And I think about this the most, honestly, in relation to church, because I don't know how all church congregations are laid out, but ours has speakers from the congregation. They're given a topic, usually a week or two before they prepare for that topic, and they come and they share it. But there's also other speakers, and some are really good at honoring the time that they've been given. They're like, speak for 10 minutes or something, and it's like, maybe if you go a minute over, or whatever, that's fine. But there's others that it's not that they're being mean, they're just very unaware that they are going way over their time. And so they don't know how to create something that's concise. They don't know how to this could go along with public speaking as well, because the more you learn and speak and practice things in public, the easier it is to be more concise and to understand what's actually important in what you're saying. None of us are perfect at it. But I think understanding, teaching our kids to understand that other people have prepared things. They also have a time schedule. We need to honor them in their speaking. If we're invited, to a university to speak, or just a homeschool group to speak, or whatever it is, there could be other people there. If they give you a time, or if they don't, ask them how much they would like you to speak for, so that, and if there's other speakers and what they're going to be talking about, be aware of your situation. So you don't just go in and just take over, and other people that have prepared hours and hours upon end don't get the time that they thought they were going to get. Okay, and sometimes that's going to happen. You're going to have to adjust, and me and my husband naturally kind of do that. Just our personalities, we're just very good at adjusting for time, and we, overly prepare, but then we're able to pick and choose what's the most important things. And that's just, again, something that I personally don't know exactly how to teach, because it just comes so naturally to me. But being aware, I think just teaching the kids from a young age that they are not the only person in the room will greatly help this. Because I think that's what happens. We just forget, and again, not in a cruel way most of the time, but we just forget that other people are there and that they have also prepared, and that they might want to share it. They might want to share what they prepared. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they're scared to death and they're so grateful you're going long. But I think time management is something that is not taught anywhere that needs to be taught, because it's such an important life skill. All right, so those are my 8 subjects that I think that we need to be teaching, or teaching better, to help our kids become better, well adapted, nice, kind adults that are just aware of the world and can help other people also flourish and function well. So those are the thoughts that I had. So remember to put any of your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear what subjects you think would be beneficial. And remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.